Gatherings are for real family only, Lily. Dad's voice exploded through the kitchen that night. The kind of shout that doesn't echo off walls, it echoes inside your chest. Mom stood behind him, arms crossed, eyes cold. My brother, Nate, smirked like he'd been waiting his whole life to see me put in my place. I had just asked if I could bring my fiancé Ethan to Grandma's birthday dinner. That was it. But suddenly I was the outsider again. My name is Lily Harper. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been told, over and over, that you didn't belong in the family you were born into? I froze in that moment, clutching the phone still on speaker, Ethan's voice faintly calling my name on the other end. Dad ripped it off the counter and slammed it down, ending the call. "You're not part of this family anymore," he said. He meant it. After that, I stopped getting invites. Weddings, birthdays, holidays, all gone. They called it keeping the peace, but peace isn't silence. Peace isn't being erased. I watched their lives unfold through social media. Their smiling faces, group photos, matching sweaters, like a show I'd been written out of. And maybe I would have kept swallowing that pain forever. But then I got married. And for the first time I was the one making the guest list. I stared at their names, Mom, Dad, Nate, and for a long moment my hand hovered over the send button. Then I closed the laptop. They'd made it clear I wasn't real family. So I didn't invite them. When the wedding photos went online, they lost their minds. Dozens of missed calls. Texts from Dad dripping with guilt. Mom begging to talk. Nate pretending to play peacemaker. They wanted forgiveness. They wanted an audience. But all I had left to give was the truth. One phone call that would end it all. The night after my wedding, I sat on the hotel balcony, still in my silk robe, hair tangled from the wind, mascara faintly smudged from happy tears. Ethan was asleep inside, his slow breathing a kind of peace I'd never known before. Then my phone started buzzing. Again. Even Nate. They wouldn't stop. Voicemails poured in like a storm. Mom crying, Dad shouting, Nate pretending he just wanted to understand. But there's nothing to understand when you've spent years being told you're not family. I picked up once. Just once. "Lily." Dad's voice was already breaking. "You embarrassed us. Everyone's asking why we weren't invited." "Because you told me I wasn't family," I said softly. I listened. "That was different," he snapped. "You took it too seriously. Too seriously. As if being erased was a joke I'd failed to laugh at." Mom's voice joined in. "You made us look bad, honey. We just want to fix things." "Fix things?" I repeated. "You can't fix something you shattered on purpose." Silence. Then the line filled with the sound of her crying, the kind that used to make me run to her when I was little. But I didn't move. Not this time. I had a choice, to let them spin the story again or to end it myself. So I made one call. Not to them, to Grandma. The only person in that family who had ever looked at me without judgment. She picked up on the second ring, her voice tired but kind. "Lily, sweetheart, I saw the pictures. You looked beautiful." My throat tightened. "They're angry with me." "I know," she said. "But they've been wrong for a long time." I hesitated. Then I told her everything. The years of exclusion, the birthday dinners I wasn't invited to, Dad's words that never stopped echoing. Real family only. There was a long pause. Then Grandma sighed. "I'll take care of it," she said simply. I didn't know what that meant. Not yet. But the next morning my phone lit up again. Not from them, but from cousins, uncles, and even family friends. One message after another. "Your grandmother called a meeting. She told everyone the truth. Your dad's furious." The walls they'd built were finally cracking, and it wasn't me swinging the hammer. For the first time in years I felt free. But I didn't know then. Freedom has a cost. And mine was coming fast. By Sunday afternoon my phone was on fire. Group texts. Missed calls. Everyone wanted to talk, not to celebrate, not to apologize, but to gossip. Grandma had done it. She called everyone together at her house. My uncles, aunts, cousins, and for the first time in decades she spoke like someone who'd had enough. Ethan and I were driving home from the coast when my cousin Ava called. I hit speaker. "Lily, what did you do?" she whispered. "What do you mean?" I asked, heart pounding. Your grandma told everyone what's been going on. About how your dad and mom froze you out of family events. How they said you weren't real family. I stayed silent, eyes fixed on the highway ahead. She told everyone she's rewriting her will, Ava continued. She's leaving the lake house to you. Not your parents. Ethan glanced at me, eyebrows raised. I didn't ask her to do that, I said quietly. I know, Ava said. That's why it hit harder. By the time I got home, the storm had fully broken. Dad's message came first. You had no right to turn Grandma against us. Then Mom's. You think a wedding makes you better than us? You're selfish. Then Nate's, cruel and predictable. Enjoy your little victory, princess. It won't last. But the thing about truth? Once it's out, it can't be unsaid. That night Grandma called me. Her voice was soft but fierce in a way I'd never heard before. I'm old, Lily. I don't have time left to pretend people are good when they're not. I saw how they treated you. I'm not letting them rewrite that. Grandma, they'll hate me for this, I whispered. They already did, sweetheart. The difference is now everyone knows why. After we hung up, I just sat there, staring at the wedding photos framed on my desk. Me and Ethan smiling, wrapped in golden light, our hands touching like we finally belonged somewhere. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn love. I was choosing peace. But peace doesn't last long in a family built on control. Because 2 days later, my parents showed up, uninvited, at my doorstep. And the look in Dad's eyes told me. This wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be war. The knock came at 9:07 p.m. Heavy, impatient, like someone demanding entry, not asking. Ethan looked up from the couch. Expecting anyone? My stomach already knew the answer. No, I whispered. Through the peephole, Dad's broad shoulders, Mom behind him, arms folded tight. I felt my pulse spike. I hadn't seen them since the day they told me I wasn't welcome at family gatherings. I opened the door just enough to see their faces. Dad didn't waste time. We need to talk. I think you already said everything, I replied. He pushed the door wider, stepping into my living room like he owned the place. You turned my own mother against me. You humiliated us. Mom's eyes were red, but not from sadness, from fury. We raised you, Lily. And this is how you repay us. By taking everything we built and... I cut her off. By telling the truth. That's all Grandma did. Dad slammed his hand on the table, the sound making Ethan stand up instantly. Don't get righteous with me. You've been twisting things since day one. Ethan stepped forward, calm but firm. You need to leave. Dad turned on him. Stay out of this, kid. This is family business. That phrase again. Family business. I felt something inside me finally snap. No, I said. You made sure I wasn't family when it suited you. You can't use that word now. Mom's face twisted. We were trying to protect our reputation. Do you know what people are saying now? That you were the victim. I was the victim, I said. My voice was shaking but strong. You told me I didn't belong. You erased me for years, and now that Grandma won't play along, you're scared. Dad's jaw clenched. You've made an enemy out of your own blood, Lily. Then I guess I stopped bleeding for you a long time ago, I whispered. For a second no one spoke. The silence felt electric, brittle, ready to shatter. Mom looked around the house. The photos of me and Ethan, the calm we'd built, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not regret. Envy. We'll see what Grandma says when she calms down, Dad muttered, moving toward the door. You think this is over? It's not. Ethan locked the door behind them. I stood there, staring at the spot where my father's shadow had been, and felt the weight of old wounds pressing down on new peace. Are you okay? Ethan asked quietly. I nodded, but the truth was I wasn't. Because deep down I knew, people like them don't just walk away. They retaliate. And I could feel it coming. It started 3 days later. At first it was subtle, a weird tension in the air, messages from relatives suddenly going cold. My cousin Ava stopped replying. My aunt, who used to call once a week, suddenly blocked me. I knew that silence. It wasn't absence, it was exile. My parents were rewriting the story. I found out exactly how bad it was when my boss called me into the office. Lily, he said, voice cautious, I got a call from your father. He said you're having some mental health problems and might need time off. My breath caught. He what? He sounded concerned, my boss added quickly. But it felt off. It wasn't concern. It was sabotage. The same manipulation my dad had used my whole life, dressed up as love. I left work early that day, anger and disbelief burning in my chest. When I got home, Ethan was on the phone with the bank. His expression was pale. They froze the joint account you had with your parents, he said. Apparently, your dad claimed there were unauthorized transfers. I laughed. A raw, bitter sound. Of course he did. Dad wasn't trying to talk. He was trying to erase me again, just like before. But this time I wasn't the same girl he could silence. That night I sat on the couch, scrolling through old texts from Grandma. She'd written a few days before. If they come for you, remember, I know the truth. And I've kept everything. I didn't know what she meant then. But now I did. So I called her. Sweetheart, she answered softly, I've been expecting this. Grandma, they're trying to ruin me. My job, my accounts. I know, she interrupted. Your father came to see me yesterday. He tried to convince me to correct the story I told everyone. My stomach twisted. What did you do? I told him no, she said firmly. And then I told him something else, that I was transferring all my assets to you. Immediately. Grandma. I'm tired of pretending, she said. He's had decades to change. You deserve peace. I didn't want her money. I wanted my dignity back. But I knew this wasn't about dollars. It was about power. And for the first time that power was shifting. Later that night my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. You think you've won? You're about to regret this. No name. No photo. But I didn't need one. It was Nate. I stared at the glowing screen, heartbeat steady, voice calm when I finally said to myself, if this is the game they want to play, I'll finish it. Because they'd taken everything from me once. And this time I was ready to burn their lies down to ash. They thought chaos would scare me. They forgot I'd learned to move like water. Patient, inevitable. I started small and silent. No posts, no dramatic declarations. I hired a lawyer. Not because I wanted a courtroom spectacle, but because truth needs witnesses who carry pens and power. Claire Reyes was sharp, precise, the kind of woman whose presence made people tidy their lies. I handed her a cardboard file of everything. Old texts, the voicemails where Dad told me I wasn't family, copies of invitations I'd never received. Documentation, Claire said. We make the paper speak. While Claire whispered legal threats to freeze accounts and request an investigation into the unauthorized transfers my father claimed, I did something quieter. I answered. I replied to the relatives who went cold with honesty instead of anger. To Ava I sent one message. I don't want their approval. I want the truth to stop being folded into gossip. A few cousins replied back, ashamed, some curious. A few didn't. Grandma didn't just transfer money. She handed me a ledger. Names, dates, receipts. The proof of how tightly they'd controlled not just family narratives but the estate itself. I spent nights at her kitchen table, the lamp humming, turning pages as if they were a map. It showed patterns. Signatures forged, checks routed, favors given in exchange for silence. It smelled like old paper and righteous fury. I didn't post the ledger online. Revenge staged for viewers is hollow. Instead, Claire sent carefully worded letters. Auditors, bank compliance, a trust attorney. She asked for audits I didn't understand at first, then watched as the fortress my parents had built, the quiet monopolies of influence and money, started to reveal cracks. A bank who once smiled in my father's presence now asked for documentation. An old business partner who'd taken Dad's side called to negotiate. Suddenly money had to be accounted for. They retaliated the only way they knew. Character assassination. Nate planted a story with a local blogger about me being ungrateful and dramatic. I watched the comments swarm and then watched even more carefully as people who mattered, the ones who'd seen Dad's temper and Mom's cruelty, quietly corrected the record in private messages to friends and co-workers. Truth tastes like antiseptic and it stings but it cleans. At night, when the house went quiet and Ethan's breathing slowed beside me, I'd rehearse what I'd say if they showed up again. Not to punish them. I'd learned punishment rarely kills the thing that needs killing. I wanted something else. Exposure. To make the lies too visible to hide behind. Then one Tuesday Claire called with a voice both tired and electric. "They're asking for mediation," she said. "But it's not about reconciliation. They want to stop the audit." I pictured Dad in a conference room shouting and demanding respect like he owned the air. I pictured Mom rehearsing tears. I let the image flare and die. "Said it," I told Claire. My voice was steady. "But I'm not negotiating my life away." As I put the phone down, Grandma shuffled into the living room with 2 cups of tea and sat beside me. She placed her hand over mine, small, warm, stubborn. "You knew this would wake the whole house," she said. "Are you ready?" I looked at her, at the ledger now locked in my desk, at the photos of the wedding where my smile had been real and whole, and felt something open inside me. Not victory, not yet, but a kind of fierce, patient hope. "Ready," I whispered. Outside, the wind moved like a conspirator, pushing old leaves along the curb. Inside, I lit another cigarette, not for the nicotine but to watch the smoke curl and vanish. They thought they could erase me. Instead, I was becoming the kind of trouble they hadn't counted on. A quiet fire they couldn't find a hose for. The mediation room smelled like cold coffee and old paper. Neutral ground, but everyone knew the battlefield had my father's fingerprints on it. He sat across from me in a navy suit, jaw locked, eyes darting between the lawyers. Mom perched beside him, her pearls trembling with every nervous breath. Nate leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. I walked in calmly, holding nothing but a single envelope. Inside it, copies of the bank transfers, the recorded voicemail, and Grandma's signed affidavit. Truth printed in ink. Claire placed her tablet on the table, screen lit. "Let's begin," she said. Dad leaned forward. "This has gone far enough. My daughter has been spreading lies, involving outsiders and hurting this family's reputation." I looked at him, the man who'd taught me to be silent, and said softly, "No. I'm just refusing to stay quiet this time." Mom's voice broke through, sharp and trembling. "You're destroying your father's name, Lily." "His name destroyed itself," I said. The mediator tried to interject, but Dad slammed his palm down. "You think you can outsmart me? You're still that same ungrateful kid. You've embarrassed us publicly and now you're digging into business that isn't yours." I opened the envelope and slid the documents across the table. "Actually," I said, "it's exactly mine. Every cent you funneled through those joint accounts? Every check with my signature forged?" Grandma confirmed it, and the bank's audit agrees. The silence that followed was heavy, not peaceful but suffocating. Nate leaned forward, the smirk gone. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, I already did," I interrupted. "The letters went out last week. The compliance team has everything." Mom's face turned white. Dad's voice cracked for the first time. "You went to the authorities?" "No," I said quietly. "I went to the truth. They're just catching up." The mediator, composed but alert, cleared his throat. "Mr. Harper, this could have serious legal implications. I advise." Dad stood abruptly, knocking his chair over. "You think you've won?" I met his glare. "I didn't come here to win. I came here to stop losing." He hesitated, for just a second, and I saw it. The flicker of fear in a man who had always relied on power to rewrite history. Then he walked out. Mom followed, trembling. Nate glared one last time and muttered, "You'll regret this." When the door closed, the room felt wider. Claire exhaled, breaking the silence. "You realize what you just did, right?" I nodded. "I gave them the one thing they can't manipulate, exposure." That night, the story spread faster than I could have imagined. Grandma's friends, old family partners, the very people who'd worshipped Dad's image now knew the truth. By morning, the calls weren't from them, they were from reporters. Investigators. Even the church board Dad chaired for 20 years. The empire he built on fear was starting to crumble, not with flames but with facts. I sat on my porch with Ethan, the first sunrise soft and gold over the neighborhood, and said, "It's almost over." He took my hand gently. Almost. But deep down I knew there was still one thing left. Not revenge, not justice, something harder. Closure. And it would come from one last conversation. The air was colder that morning, the kind of cold that smells like rain and endings. I parked outside my parents' house for the first time in years. The blinds were half drawn, the paint peeling a little from the porch. Even the roses Mom used to brag about had wilted. Ethan offered to come in, but I shook my head. This is something I have to do alone. Inside, the house felt smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just grown beyond its walls. Dad was at the kitchen table, newspaper spread out but unread. Mom stood at the sink, back turned, pretending to rinse dishes that weren't dirty. When Dad looked up, his face was older, not in years but in spirit. Pride had a way of aging a man faster than time ever could. "You made quite the mess," he said finally. "No," I replied softly. "I cleaned one up." He leaned back in his chair, his voice brittle. "They're calling it fraud. They might press charges." "I know," I said. "That's between you and the truth now." Mom turned around, eyes wet. "Lily, you could have come to us. We could have fixed this as a family." I smiled, not cruelly, just sadly. "You only remember I'm family when you need forgiveness." She looked down. Dad sighed. "So what now? You just walk away? Like we never existed?" I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. "You're my parents. That's a fact. But love and family, those are choices. And you stopped choosing me a long time ago." He tried to hold my gaze, but his eyes flickered away. For the first time I realized he wasn't powerful, he was terrified. Terrified of being seen without control. I took a folded envelope from my purse and placed it on the table. "This is for you," I said. He didn't touch it. "What is it?" "Closure," I answered. "The rest of Grandma's estate. I don't want it. I never wanted the money. I just wanted peace." Mom's voice cracked. "So this is goodbye?" I nodded. "Yes. But it's also release for both of us." I turned to leave, but Dad's voice stopped me at the doorway. "Lily," he said quietly, almost human, "was it worth it?" I looked back, at the man who'd once told me I wasn't real family, and said, "It was never about winning, Dad. It was about being free." Outside, the rain had finally started. The sound was soft, cleansing. I walked down the path toward Ethan's car, each step lighter than the last. When I got in, he reached for my hand. "You okay?" I smiled. "Yeah. For the first time, I really am." As we drove away, I didn't look back. Some doors close so quietly the world doesn't even notice. But I did. And I swear I could hear Grandma's voice in the rain, warm, proud, and steady. "You did good, sweetheart. You chose peace." I watched the house disappear in the rearview mirror, a blur fading into distance, and whispered to myself,